Our last keynote is going to drive you to the future of DevOps. Joining us all the way from the racetrack in the IoT demo zone, please welcome JFrog Vice President of Business Development, Kit Merker.
Think about all of the objects, devices, and things that we trust with our lives that are running software. I'm really excited to be here. I hope you guys are having a great time. You know, I joined JFrog 3 years ago, and one of the missions I got focused on is this IoT thing. Now, IoT, the Internet of Things, is actually a collection of industry verticals. It's not one thing. It involves a lot of things. And we started looking at smart buildings. We built a dollhouse. Then we looked at drones. We updated those while they were flying. It was fun. But we looked at manufacturing and retail and oil and gas and smart energy and all these different things that kind of fit into IoT. And this talk is going to be about specifically one of the hard and critical problems that we're facing right now in the world, which is the automotive industry, software updates in the automotive industry. And that's why I'm saying these devices that are out there that are running software, in a way, we've kind of become the new mechanics as software engineers. But before we talk about the future of all the software updates and autonomous driving, I want to look to the past, because I think it's important to stay grounded. And I want to introduce to you a machine, a very powerful machine. This is the Iterating 25. It was built in 1982. And the Iterating 25 was developed by the leading radiation therapy company at the time. This machine was sort of the pinnacle of their therapy system. And it could actually deliver radiation therapy to cancer patients. Now, there was a problem. And the problem is that the software was actually pretty brittle. It wasn't well designed or tested. The error messages were meaningless. And the operators, being people using machines, didn't understand what the error codes meant. And when it said that no dosage had been given, they trusted the machine. And it actually gave a dose. And the result was that 6 people died or were injured from this machine. And eventually, they shut down the project and it went out of business. It's a cautionary tale, but this is from so long ago. Software's changed. The way we build software has completely changed in the industry. This is before Google or anything else. So you might say, well, we have liquid software now. This isn't a problem anymore. But I want to remind everyone that cars are incredibly powerful. Over time, the horsepower and the weight has only increased. And this poses a danger that we all live with. We all cope with this danger every day. We get in the car, we drive it. And when we think about how to be responsible for this power with people, we have some simple things we do. We nudge them in the right direction, and we give them traffic laws. We say you have to be 16. We remind you not to drink and drive. We remind you not to text and drive. I'm going to remind you all, don't text and drive. And this is to help people become better drivers and be safer and be more responsible and take care of these powerful machines. But we all know what's happening. People aren't the ones behind the wheel anymore. What's behind the wheel is software. And how do we teach software to be better, more responsible drivers? And the only answer I could come up with, honestly, is you have to update the software. You have to. No matter how good it is today, we know we can make it better tomorrow. We know we can make it safer tomorrow. And the only way we can do that is we can deliver the software from the developer to the car. I want to give you a sneak peek about what's going on in the automotive industry.
5 or 6 years from now, I think we'll be able to achieve true autonomous driving where you could literally get in the car, go to sleep, and wake up at your destination.
I see cars as continuing to move down the path of being self-driving. And I think that through the use of the internet and GPS technology and access to different maps and things along those lines, we'll be able to get there.
We think that self-driving technologies can improve safety, reduce emissions, and improve operational efficiencies of our ship.
Uber today put the brakes on all road testing of its self-driving cars after a deadly accident.
Tesla says this is what it's supposed to look like, but this is what it looked like the day before Wang's deadly crash because of a previous accident.
I think it's important for us to differentiate autonomous driving versus autopilot. Autopilot is what they have in airplanes. For example, we use the same term that they use in airplanes, where there's still an expectation that there will be a pilot. So if the onus is on the pilot to make sure that the autopilot is doing the right thing.
Watch this car hit the brakes as it enters the intersection. What you don't see there off to the left is a car that ran that light and pulled into the intersection, and it appeared that the Waymo detected it and stopped early.
What we usually hear in the news is not necessarily positive because it's interesting, but I think the technology is already here.
Full-size autonomous vehicles are using sometimes cameras, sometimes LiDAR, sometimes radar, all kinds of sensors to give it more information to make decisions about. More sensors, more data, more disparate sets of information about the car's surroundings equal a safer driving experience.
This car has 2019.12. This car has 2019.8.5.
I would get into the car without a latest software update, but I think it would be very important to have the latest updates.
I don't think about whether or not, I need to get the newest or greatest features. It would be nice to have them, but it's not part of my process when I get in the car.
It really needs to be kind of this seamless flow where the software just kind of disappears from the user experience and whatever I create becomes part of their experience. As part of this autonomous car experience that we brought to swampUP, one of the things that I think is important to highlight is that there's a lot of different pieces of software that brought that whole experience together. And all of those pieces of software are updated through the JFrog platform, real time through this system.
The vehicle environment is no longer about mechanical structures, it's about software structures. That's what it's somewhat like to be a software developer or engineer at Ford. And really looking to take that to the next level here going forward.
So we heard Elon talking about the hype that in 5 or 6 years you'll be able to have the car you'll go to sleep and wake up in the destination. I don't think he was expecting the news yesterday that a certain guy who was blowing up Twitter, driving down the road fast asleep in his Tesla, an autopilot, guy behind him honking, trying to wake him up. I don't think that's what we expected. And it reminds us that our users will do what users will do. There's a connection between the developers and the users in this flow. We know that we got to get the software updates to the car. We need to iterate fast. You heard Nicole talking yesterday about the best performing teams deliver fast and safely. And this is what we got to do. Now, I want to talk about 3 specific problems in this pipeline, if you will, between the developer, maybe some of you even, writing code and getting your software to your customer. Today, it's a manual process. It's risky. I don't know if it's going to make it better or worse. And it's also slow. It's something that I have to plan. Now, before we get into the solution, I want to talk a little bit about the problem. And to do this, my team, we were brainstorming, okay, if we got in a room and we said, okay, we want to put together the rules of software mechanics. What would those simple rules be that if we could just follow them, it would solve the world's problems? So we came up with the first rule, and the first rule was, don't kill anyone. Makes sense. And actually, we even labeled this rule 0 because this is not even a rule, this is the aspiration. This is where we want to get to. We don't want to hurt anyone, but there's a reality. There's a reality to a powerful machine. The reality is that you have to make decisions that will result in less bad outcomes. Here's option A, B, or C. The car's going to have to make a decision. Now, I'm not going to pretend to have the answer about the right thing for society or have a perfect implementation of how we're going to do that. I just know, what I do know, is that that will change over time, and the software will need to improve to match the expectations of society. I know this. So rule 0. Rule number 1, it's a car, so it should be up to date with the turn of a key. There's no key in my car, but you understand the idea. Up to date with the turn of the key, the idea is that you should just turn the car on and it should have the software it needs. You shouldn't have to, as an aspiration, you shouldn't have to plan a downtime or schedule a time or wait overnight or pull over to the side of the road. So the story I'm using here to illustrate this, there was this car in China and this guy was driving along and guess what he did? Accidentally initiated the update in rush hour traffic. Car stopped, got a nice little progress bar, doors are locked, windows are locked, police show up, hilarity ensued. No, they were stuck in traffic for an hour waiting for the software to download an update in the car. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. Up to date with the turn of a key, okay. The next story, and I know this is all doom and gloom, it's fun, but the next story. The car should get better over time. Now, how many of you have heard that a car is a depreciating asset? We all know this, yeah? There's a lot of car collectors in the room, apparently. This is an interesting story here. The car should get better over time. So if you think about how the technology can improve, if you're a Tesla driver, I see tweets from certain Tesla drivers talking about how they get these new features deployed that make the car better and more exciting and more valuable over time. And this story, to kind of illustrate the opposite of that, is this Jaguar I-Pace had a braking issue completely caused by software. They had to issue a vehicle recall that forced the owners to first notice that there's a recall and take it to the service center to get a software update installed. Software bug that rises to the level of a recall. And I don't know, for me, most software I've written, life and death isn't hanging in the balance, but this is real stuff. Now, the other piece, and again, Nicole talked about this yesterday, it's almost like we coordinated, but we didn't, is about reducing anxiety. Now, this is a shocking thing I learned as I was preparing for this talk, is that as the future of autonomous vehicles becomes closer, people are actually becoming more afraid of it. Rightfully so, right? And it's not just the people in the car, it's also the other people in non-autonomous cars, and it's pedestrians. It's other people around this that have no choice. They didn't choose to go out and buy the latest and greatest. They're technology laggards, but they're, the guy one lane over is driving his car asleep. They didn't choose that. So the anxiety is going up for them. And on top of that, the anxiety for the developers too, because nothing makes us write better code than being afraid of writing code, right? So this anxiety idea, I think, is very important as we build this trust, right? The trust between the relationship of the developer and the driver. Okay, so let's talk about solutions. Those are the rules. So rule number 1, up to date with the turn of the key. You may have seen this diagram before, but it's about the update strategies, okay? So how important is the update for the user to take? Meaning, I need this update critically to don't take an update because I'm in a bad situation. And user control, meaning it's just automated, happens behind the scenes, versus manual. The user has to decide to do it, or maybe has to buy a new thing. Now, the lower right corner represents taking the car to the service center, right? It's a manual update that I need. So I have to take the car to the service center for a recall. And the upper left represents driving down the freeway and getting an update forced on me that I don't want, okay? Now, your natural reaction to this is like, oh my God, we got to put the user in charge, right? And we want to put everybody down in this lower left corner and say, guess what? We'll put the user in charge. They'll decide the best time for them to do the updates. They'll make the decisions about what release to take. Sounds great, right? Remove the responsibility. But what we believe at JFrog is in liquid software. And liquid software means you go faster. You push the software more repeatedly. You get people used to this. And you automate them and make it seamless. You can trust it. And you avoid that procrastination and annoyance, and more importantly, the ethical quandary you find yourself in, where you're misunderstanding either the severity of the fix or the context of the user who's trying to take a fix. Okay. Coming back to our problem diagram, one of the things that you heard about yesterday is the unified experience for Enterprise Plus. And one of the key new capabilities that we have in Enterprise Plus is something called Artifactory Edge. When you're thinking about doing updates, there are 2 key things I want to recommend when you're thinking about how to speed up the update for the perception of the user to solve the slowdown, okay? The first idea is you want to separate the download step from the install step. Download step from the install step. If you can at least get rid of the download problem, download everything you need behind the scenes before you install, it solves a huge amount of update pain. Just right there, okay? It's the first thing to think about. I highly recommend it. Take notes, okay? Second thing is to do a side-by-side installation. And one of the cool things that we're seeing with modern computing, because we have more space, we have more power, we can do a side-by-side install, make sure everything works, flip over to a new partition, test everything. If that works, great. The user's experience of that is turn of a key. But if there's a problem with that update, the tests fail, something isn't working, something isn't quite right, you also have the last known good to just simply roll back. Implementation aside, I'm just saying from an update strategy perspective, you want to push faster, make it repeatable, separate download from install, and install side by side. Okay, rule number 2. The car gets better over time. So it's an interesting thing is that the only way we can improve these processes is through iteration. Now, I went and looked at it to see how many miles were being driven without human interruption, okay? And this is a collection of several different companies, aggregation of how many miles they had driven on the road in 2017 without human intervention. Human intervention means grab the wheel, touch the gas, touch the brakes. And you'll notice from the first half of the year, January to June 2017, from the first half to the second half, it nearly doubled. Okay? The number of miles driven doubled, which means that basically the computer driver became double safer. Twice the time a user could relax and have less anxiety about being in the car. And the only way this is possible is by iterating and quickly updating the software in the car. It's the only way to do it. Now, again, connecting it to where we are today, what you heard about yesterday, you remember JFrog pipelines from our acquisition of Shippable. JFrog pipelines is all about CI/CD. And so when you want to iterate faster, what you need is automation. Automation that will help you from a CI to CD. Now, of course, you all have CI and CD solutions as well, and I encourage you to make sure that you have robust infrastructure with testing and regression tests and everything else. But you need to be able to iterate and automate all the steps, or else you're going to slow down the process, and that's going to result in a worse delivery to the end customer. And finally, reducing anxiety. Now, I've already kind of made you all anxious about being the users of self-driving cars, but there's actually, I mean, for us here, we're just, it's just us here, developers. There's another audience we need to be worried about from an anxiety perspective, and that's how do I not be in the news, right? You don't want to be the guy or gal who wrote the code, submitted it, on a Friday probably, and broke the build, and then recall gets issued. Recall gets issued. 15% of car recalls are blamed on software now. Whether management is telling the truth or not, it's your fault. Okay, that's how it works. Now, think about if you had the full over-the-air update all the way to the car. Think about what that would do differently. Would it ever get to a recall? No. You'd fix the bug, you'd test it, you'd deploy to prod. You'd watch the rollout to all of the different environments, and you'd know exactly who had the fix and who didn't. It would never make the news, you understand? But by not having the ability to update, you're hoping that the software will be perfect. And we know that's not the case. And we know it has to get better. Now, I have a perfect solution to this problem, and I want to share it with you. It's, JFrog quality solution. Ready? You guys not get the joke? Okay. Anyway, tough crowd. But seriously though, look, there's no replacement for good testing, good test coverage. But one class of issue that I think is particularly difficult and erodes trust more than anything else is security. And what you heard yesterday is that our relationship and our partnership, which I'm very proud of, with risk-based security and the world's best vulnerability database is now available to you in X-Ray. So now we can build more trust by securing all the code, all the software that's going to eventually get to the car, and make sure we at least eliminate that problem. Plus, we have our continuous integration system. Plus, we got Artifactory Edge to separate the installation from the download. The only thing we're missing is I need an artifact manager. I need an analytics solution. I need to have some RBAC, Access Federation. What else do I need? So we got to fill in the rest of the picture here. And what you see is Enterprise Plus. Enterprise Plus, there you go. Enterprise Plus. And Enterprise Plus basically has everything you need to solve this problem. Yes, you're going to have other tools. Yes, you're going to integrate with the other technology stack. And yes, you have specific languages you're building in. But this solution covers these use cases and will help you get all the way from wherever you're writing code to wherever it's being deployed. So I'm really proud to share with you that my team took Enterprise Plus a few months ago, and we actually kind of went deeper. Because I can talk about this and show you news clippings and headlines all day and scare the crap out of you, but we went a different way, which is to have working code. And it's great, the Conan guys, or BinCrafters guys were talking about this before. We did a very cool project with Yocto. Yocto is an embedded Linux build system. We actually integrated that with Conan to make the build experience better, can use it with Artifactory. A very cool experience there, and that's something that's being used by a number of our customers and widely in the automotive industry and other IoT industries. We also brought in automotive-grade Linux, which is a Linux Foundation project and is being designed and optimized by the leading car manufacturers to work great in automotive scenarios. We layered on top of that a testing platform called Lava, and that's letting us test devices before we deploy so we can make sure our code is good before it goes out there. And our partners at Mender, who have a device management and installation technology, lets us do side-by-side installations to the devices. So we put all this together, and Baruch kind of stole my thunder. Guys, don't bring the car out. No, I'm kidding. I was going to bring a car out here. This was the idea. I told Shlomi, I'm like, okay, buy me a car. I'll put it on stage. I'll update the software. He immediately approved it, but the hotel said no. But then, I actually thought about it. It's kind of funny. I thought about it. I was like, well, that's kind of a boring demo, right? So I've got this car who's sitting here, and I go, yeah, don't worry, guys. I made the self-driving better. Don't worry, it works. And it's sitting here on stage. It's not driving. It's not doing anything. So it's kind of boring. So I thought to myself what the perfect demo would be. And I thought, OK, I'm going to go around to every single person at swampUP. I'm going to drag them to a computer, say, you're going to write code, update some code that works for autonomous driving and vehicles and automotive industry use cases, and you're going to push that through the full pipeline. And I'm going to deliver it to a driver who's going to give you instant feedback about how that experience affected them. It's a pretty cool demo, right? Crazy idea. Guess what? We actually did it. Roll the film. I just want to give a quick shout out to my amazing IoT development team. Are you in the back here somewhere? Hello, wave, guys, everybody give them a round of applause for building the damn thing. So we had such a great time yesterday, and I don't know, hopefully some of you got to join us yesterday. Guess what, it's going to be open again. We want you to go down there, and the team that actually built it is here and operating it. They can answer questions about what we did. I'll share with you, it is a demo. It's a demo, it works, it's working code, but it's still at a scale of an RC car. We'd love to work with all of you to figure out how we take it all the way and really bring this idea of liquid software and prove it out at the real scale. And it's not just for us, it's about society and humanity too. We want to help make this entire platform of automotive industry much, much stronger. And we'd like to do it together. So I encourage you to go. Team, go ahead, head to the booth. You're going to get a lot of traffic in a few minutes. Get set up, charge the batteries, and please go do that. I want to thank you all so much, and I hope that together we can follow the rules of becoming software mechanics. Thank you.